Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Fernandez. I am the Director of Latin Formats for Beasley Media Group. It is an incredible honor for me to have been invited here today with someone who is member of the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, ranking member of the Subcommittee on Western Hemisphere, Transnational Crime, Civilian Security, Democracy, Human Rights, and Global Women's Issues, Vice Chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and he was previously candidate for President of the United States. Please welcome United States Senator Marco Rubio.
Morning.
Senator Rubio, it's an honor to be speaking with you again. Immigration has been a problem for decades in this country, yet it seems that the topic has fallen into a perpetual political debate with no resolution and no reform. Today we are facing the worst immigration crisis this country has ever seen, with every month registering record high illegal crossings, including almost 250,000 people last month. Will we ever see a resolution to this?
Well, I hope so. And I think you have to understand, I think we have to start from the very basics. We are a nation that's always been enriched by immigration. We need to continue to be a nation that's enriched by immigration through a process that makes sense for America. So every year, as I speak to you now, every year, this year alone, 1 million people will become permanent residents of the United States through a process that is important, but I think is bureaucratic and broken and needs to be improved. And I also think needs to be reformed and modernized to reflect the 21st century, right? So it has to be more based on your skills, your talents, your job, the business you're going to start, the job you're going to fill, and not just entirely, almost entirely based on family connection. I think we also have to deal with the fact that we've got millions of people in this country, some of who have been here for 20 years, and they may have overstayed a visa, maybe even entered illegally, but are now been ingrained into our lives and have not committed any serious crimes or not committed crimes. And therefore, I think most Americans are looking to accommodate them. I think those two things are important. The problem is neither one of those are possible as long as we have a border situation that's completely out of control. This is the first time, I think, in modern history where the United States does not control one of its borders. Today, trafficking networks control that border, and they don't just traffic in people, they traffic in drugs. They are flooding our country with fentanyl. These trafficking networks in Mexico are flooding the United States with fentanyl, which is killing thousands of people in this country as a result, and destroying millions of families and their lives. So until we fix that problem, I just don't think you're going to have, frankly, the energy, the focus, or the political support necessary to do the things we have to do to improve our legal immigration system and to deal with the people that are not criminals and have been here a long time that are out of status. And so I hope we can do those three things, but it has to start with the first, and that is gaining the confidence of the American people that our border and our illegal immigration problem is under control.
Yeah, and Senator Rubio, we're a little bit pressed for time, so we're going to try to push through these questions a little bit quicker here. And now, when we get back into talking about radio stations today use social media to further connect with their audiences. However, as Elon Musk has underscored with his intentions of purchasing Twitter, the problems of censorship and freedom of speech remain a troublesome area for these digital platforms. Do governments have a role to play here at all?
Well, I think the most important job the government has is to protect free speech. Free speech is hard. Most countries in the world don't try it because of that, because it requires you to allow people the freedom to say things that you know aren't true, that you find to be offensive, that you find to be disturbing, that you think are ridiculous. But that's the price of free speech. The alternative to free speech is someone then gets to decide what is true and what isn't, what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes that decider might be you, but sometimes it may not be you. And so I think it's one of our most cherished rights. I think it's one of the reasons why America has been such a creative, dynamic, and innovative country, is because people had freedom to express themselves. And I think the role government should play is to protect free speech. And as long as every side, if you think what someone's saying is not true, you should have the freedom, they should have the freedom of speech to say things that you find to be offensive, and you should have the freedom of speech to counter them. But what I think becomes very dangerous is when somebody starts deciding who gets to speak and who doesn't, what views are true and which are not. When someone gets to decide that with government power, you are now on a very dangerous trajectory. And that's what I fear could happen to this country if we don't carefully monitor that.
Well, we've seen the current administration want to implement a disinformation bureau or the Ministry of Truth. Where are they with that?
Well, they said they're now evaluating it, and it's a terrible idea. Let me tell you why it's such a terrible idea. I'll give you two real world examples. If a year ago at this time, or a year and a half ago at this time, I would have said that I thought that there was a chance, that it's possible, maybe even likely, that COVID originated as an accident at a Chinese lab in Wuhan, that would have been labeled disinformation. It would have been taken down by Facebook, it would have been taken down by YouTube, it would have been silenced in the media. Today, that is the consensus position of our intelligence agencies and a growing number of scientists, that the possibility that this was a lab leak is at least as high as the possibility that it was naturally occurring. We may never know the full answer to it, but that's no longer disinformation. It was disinformation at one time to say that the COVID vaccine didn't prevent people from getting COVID. They would have said that was disinformation. Now we know that the vaccine oftentimes doesn't prevent COVID, although it does prevent serious illness, has a good job, but track record of preventing serious illness. I could go on and on about issue after issue that was determined to be disinformation at one time, and then a year later it turned out not to be. And so, as you can see, I think it's very dangerous to create a government entity that's going to go around labeling people liars.
Yeah, when we talk about radio stations, there's been a lot of rumblings, a lot of concern actually, because there's been talk in Washington about Congress imposing a new performance fee, tax, royalty, or other charges on local radio broadcasters. And now they're reintroducing the Local Radio Freedom Act in an effort to keep Congress from imposing the aforementioned. Is this something you would sign and defend?
No, I'm not a sponsor of that. It's actually not a law. It's what they call a bicameral concurrent resolution. It's not legislation. I'm not a co-sponsor of it. And my view of it is local media outlets are already under tremendous amount of pressure and competition from, the sheer volume of different communication vehicles. I mean, the number of places people are getting news and information now is massive. And so it's already creating tremendous pressure on local. So the last thing I think local media outlets need is another tax or another fee that increases the cost of operating. I think it could very well lead to not just consolidation of local media outlets, but the closure. A lot of people will just walk away from that business model at some point because it just becomes cost ineffective.
You would for the Local Act? I ask again because the internet connection is a little patchy.
Yeah, I'm not a sponsor of the Local Radio Freedom Act. I think it would impose new taxes and fees on an industry that's already in a lot of trouble when it comes to revenue. We're going to lose local news and information if we keep raising costs on operation, and this is just one more cost.
This is a question that some of the members of our board wanted to ask you. Will there be a Hispanic on the FCC in years? And it's people have pending.
I hope so, but I don't think it should be because they're Hispanic. I think it's because they're the right person for the job. I didn't run for president demanding that everybody vote for me because I'm a Hispanic. I'm not running for Senate now demanding that Hispanics vote for me. I have to earn people's support. I have to prove I'm the right person for the job. So I think we have to get away from this idea that we need to hire people on the basis of their skin color or their ethnicity. And I think now what we need to do is make sure that your skin color or your ethnicity is not preventing you or preventing people from real opportunities to access that. We have a lot of qualified people in this country who happen to be of Hispanic descent, who would do a great job at the FCC. And I hope that they become nominated for that and at some point get on there. And there's no reason why they shouldn't. It's now Hispanic Americans are now a substantial percentage of our population. And if any institution doesn't reflect that, we should be asking why. And we should make sure that whatever impediments stand in the way of it are removed.
Yeah, but with the growth of Hispanic media in the United States, wouldn't it be prudent to have somebody who understands the language that's being broadcast, the culture that we're trying to reach in that federal office?
Yeah, I think it's important that the FCC be reflective of the media ecosystem in America. Like you have to have people on there that understand all the different mediums and the intricacies of different markets. And that could very well be someone of Hispanic descent. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of people running Hispanic media outlets today that are not Hispanic. and as well. My whole point to you is, yes, absolutely. I think there should be someone that's Hispanic on the FCC, but it should be because they're the right person and they happen to bring some knowledge, some understanding of some particular niches in the marketplace. What I'm not in favor of is quota systems. I don't think that there should be quota systems. I think we need to hire the right people for the jobs. And I think there are plenty of qualified Hispanic Americans that could certainly do a great job on the FCC.
Senator Rubio, over 8 Hispanics and African Americans were undercounted by the 2020 census. According to a recent article by the New York Times, what does the census need to do to provide a more accurate count of our population?
Well, I think it's hard to judge the census in 2020 because it happened in the midst of a pandemic at the tail end. Maybe it was under-resourced a little bit. And I just think a fundamental re-examination of how to reach people in the sense, as opposed to how it's been in the past. I think strategies that involve both door-to-door and the mail are less effective than they once were. And so I think we need to understand and do a better job. And I hope we will. The Commerce Department will do this in the years to come, is sort of understand, how do we reach people? How do we reach as many people as possible? That means you have to go where they are. You have to go to where they're on tablets, whether they're on mobile devices, wherever the eyeballs and the ears of Americans are in the 21st century. That's where the census needs to be if we want to get an accurate count. So I do think the census is in need of reform, because as it's currently structured, it's structured for the 20th century. People don't live like they did in the 20th century.
Yeah, and Senator Rubio, we want to be respectful of your time, and we also having some challenges with the internet connection. But I wanted to ask, Deborah, do we have time to take a question from the audience? Yes. Does someone have a question they'd like to add? If not, we're going to go ahead and one. Well, Senator Rubio, thanks a bunch. It's been a pleasure speaking with you once again, and we look forward to doing it in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.